Welcome, my fellow denizens of the Under Empire, and rejoice, for we are back with a showdown between the Skaven, who shall be led by Lord Skrolk, and the Tomb Kings, who are going to be led by a Tomb King. No big surprise there. He's going to be riding, I believe, on a Kemrian War Sphinx. So as far as the build goes, it's going to be very defensive because you kind of have to play that way against Tomb Kings. The past 3 or 4 games I played against good Tomb Kings players, they often just zerg you with chariots and NEHEKARA horsemen and skeleton archers. And if you go very wide with a gun line and have a lot of assets you have to protect, oftentimes you're just going to be swarmed and zerged, and you're going to have a very bad time. As such, the build is very defensive. In the front line, we have a combination of Clan Rats and Storm Vermin. So Storm Vermin do have trouble in a lot of different matchups, but against Tomb Kings, I think they have a really nice place. So firstly, these bad boys do have 90 armor and 44 melee defense. So one of the biggest issues for Tomb Kings infantry, so skeletons, and even their cav units, right, like NEHEKARA horsemen, all these troops like that, is they don't have good armor piercing values outside of their constructs. So the Storm Vermin are a pretty good frontline choice. They hold, they can beat back most Tomb Kings infantry. They can also, take a bit of a beating from the NEHEKARA horsemen and some of these other troops. So I think these bad boys are a really solid anchor choice. On top of that, we got a couple Clan Rats mixed in just because, you can't have all the nice things. We have to have a couple Walmart decisions here. So we got the Clan Rats, and we're going to see if those guys can hold. We've got a couple Rat Ogres on the flanks as well. In this matchup, one of the most important things is having mass. If you do not have mass against Tomb Kings, the constructs and the chariots and the NEHEKARA, that is such a tricky one. Say that. I challenge you guys in chat to say that fast 10 times. NEHEKARA horseman, NEHEKARA horseman. Okay, that's not. I'm getting it now. But NEHEKARA horseman. So you need to have mass to stop those guys. Otherwise, it's going to be a really bad time. They're just going to run shop, and your rats are going to be fleeing and squealing in the hills and not having a good time. So we got 2 Rat Ogres as well, and in the back we have Big Papa. We have the Helpit Abomination. This guy is quite good. I don't need to explain too much about it. Anti-large, armor piercing. He can beat down constructs. He heals himself. He's just solid. He does also have that healing proc. So if he does get a little bit low, he is indeed too horrible to die. So is there a chance on it? Yeah, 50% miscast chance. I wonder if it's a guaranteed thing. I can't quite remember, but I think it usually goes off. Maybe there's a duration or it's a 50-50 type thing, but on top of that, we have a couple snipers. So this is one thing. I was kind of on the fence. I was like, do I want to bring 1 or 2? The Natty Boo Boo sharpshooters are very independent. They can't be shot unless your opponent gets pretty close because they do have the snipe and stalk ability. So these guys are incredibly powerful, but they're really good against big constructs. So I have 2 of them. I'm like, okay, maybe I'll be able to protect 2 of them. And if my opponent does want to kill these, he probably will be able to, but he's going to have to commit a lot. That's kind of my thought process. So I have 2 of those. We got Skrolk Daddy as well, because Death Star fights, which this almost always devolves into, is, Skrolk's forte. He's going to be here with the Rod of Corruption, Liber Bubonicus. He can summon rats to kind of bolster your very tattered formations. And Pestilent Breath is super good against Tomb King's infantry and, chaff and horsemen and things like that. So we're going to be dropping that. Now, this is another piece that made the matchup viable for Skaven. I think beforehand, this was a really hard one for them, and oftentimes you just got run over. But now that we have an unbreakable, anti-large, armor-piercing troop who has Guardian, it's going to make it tougher to snipe Skrolk. They're not going to break if they get surrounded and just beaten down by all the chariots. These guys are just so damn good in this matchup. So we have them, and that's going to be the last piece aside from the Warlock Engineer, who does have the Mortis Engine effect with the Warpstone armor. So for my opponent's build, definitely very solid. He's got a great build here. He's got Skeleton Horseman Archers, which are really good against Rat Ogres and Helpit Abomination, so great pick there for my opponent. He does also have a Lightcaster with Barona's Time Warp, so he's probably going to Alpha Strike with a bunch of NEHEKARA Horsemen, and then from there he's just going to juice him up with the melee attack from that spell. Phos Protection also quite good on the big constructs and, things that I'm really focusing down, so yeah, great build so far. He's got a couple Chariots. They're going to just be going balls deep into the front line, running over some of these rats. He's got Skeleton Horsemen in the deep Vanguard, it looks like, just kind of the chaff ones, but the real, breadwinners in this build, in my opinion, are NEHEKARA Horsemen. These guys are so damn solid. 28, 35, 38 for the cost is really good. They're durable. They're unbreakable. These guys get in there. I mean, they can crumble, but they're not going to run. Obviously, there are Tomb Kings, but yeah, they're just incredibly good. So he's got 4 of those. And, had I gone with like Slinger Rats or some sort of skirmishers, it's really hard to protect them from this onslaught. So on that note, guys, let's see how this battle goes and have some fun. So firstly, the Jezzails, probably not going to be long for this world, are going to be opening up shop into the Tomb King, just trying to get as much damage as I can on this guy for the late game, because I figure if I can wear him down, kind of butter him up a little bit, and then later I can get him with a lever, that's going to be really good. So Chariots are going to be surging into the front line, just drifting through my rats, so I am going to be falling back and intercepting with the Rat Ogres, so right there, a little bit of a tactical retreat. And the Rat Ogres are going to be quite good, but the NEHEKARA Horsemen, they just give no shits. A massive Death Star charging in here in the front line, and it looks like a Barona's Time Warp is going to be going down as well, which is going to make these guys quite saucy, and as such, I do charge in with the Helpit Abomination, and we're going to be trying to pounce on those guys. Now, it looks like some of the Rat Ogres are being focused down by Skeleton Horsemen Archers, and my supporting troops on the flank, which is to no surprise, Skaven Slaves and Clan Rats, are going to be chased off by the Big Papa right here. So, yeah, Tomb King doing some work. Now in the back, a little bit of a lapse of micro. So I saw the Tomb King coming in. I got a little bit excited. I was like, okay, let's get the halberds in front of him and intercept him and kind of try and do some work. But that does open up my back line. And I thought I had enough ample protection back here, but I do not. So these guys are going to be getting into the back. These are skeleton horsemen, and that is going to be rough. But at the very least, they're skeleton horsemen. They're not NEHEKARA horsemen, so it's not going to be terrible. And at that point, I do pull the halberds back, and we're going to be getting in there and trying to fight those guys off. Now the Jezzails are taking a beating for sure. Not much I can do to protect them here. You can see these skeleton horsemen archers are focusing them. I mean, he's got his Tomb King in here. NEHEKARA horsemen are just bull rushing through here. And I simply don't have the bodies to stop all this stuff. It's just a brutal onslaught, but you know, it's kind of to be expected. I just have to make sure that when he comes in to kill those guys, he's taking damage back. And as you can see, it is a bit of damage. These horsemen are almost dead. He's lost, I believe, 2 groups of chariots. The second one here is about to die. His tomb priest, not a tomb priest, his lich priest here with Lord of Light is also taking a lot of damage from the halberds here. And we've also done some pretty good work over here on this side of the battlefield. The Helped Abomination is also fighting back against the Tomb Scorpion, and he does have the support of the Storm Vermin. Now, had I gone more chaff infantry, more clan rats, my entire army would just be buckled and running right now, with the exception of my elites. So I think the Storm Vermin are doing a pretty good job. I mean, they're still getting terrified and pushed back every now and then, but they're holding their own. I'm pretty proud of these little rat boys. Over here, Lord Skrolk is going to be popping. I believe the Rod of Corruption is going to be going down. My opponent does respond with an Overcasted Phos Protection, which is going to be making his troops quite tanky, but I do have the halberds here, and the halberds are just holding firm, not taking much damage, and more importantly, if he tries to snipe Skrolk with his Lord right here, he's going to have the Guardian ability, so he's going to be a little bit tankier to kill. So very good work for these rats as they're getting roasted, but still 111 models. These guys are holding firm. Now in the back, we had a lot of rats that did run away, but we have a good late game resurgence. So you can see here we have some rat ogres and clan rats and just even some storm vermin coming back in, which is great. And I'm actually able to get the Natty Bubo sharpshooters back online, which is going to be awesome. And back in the main fight, we do have a bit of a Death Star fight. Skrolk and his halberds are just chewing through these forces. The Helped Abomination is in mortal combat. However, my opponent does have some really good counterplay here. You see skeleton horsemen archers who are going to be shooting in against the Helped Abomination. I think some of them are, but it looks like some might be shooting over here, but they should definitely be shooting into the Helped. But the Helped is just beating the brakes off this Tomb Scorpion, which I was so happy about. And the Tomb Scorpion does have 50 speed against the 58 of the Helped, so it can't really run away too efficiently. The Helped will be able to catch it. Now back in the main fight, it looks like my secondary pocket that did come back is routing for the most part. Clan rats are starting to flee. I have a couple Skaven slaves and rat ogres holding their own here, but the Jezzails are still holding in the back behind all these rats and shooting in against the Big Papa right here. Thankfully, though, we do have another Rod of Corruption with Skrolk, and oh, the value train is so good. We hit everything with that Rod of Corruption, and I believe we also got a Pestilent Breath, which went right down and just tore up these NEHEKARA horsemen. We also do have halberds in here, so the halberds are going to be sitting and fighting, and they're in their element, even though they're heavily outnumbered. Oh, and there's the Pestilent Breath right there. That is going to be doing lethal damage to those NEHEKARA horsemen. You can see those guys are just broken off, and the halberds are holding firm with 104 models, and these guys are just such a good addition to the Skaven roster. I mean, definitely one of the MVPs here in this matchup. Just able to hold, and the rest of the Tomb King's forces are going to be disintegrating rather quickly here against the onslaught of Skaven halberds and spears and metal. Yeah, man. That was an intense fight for sure. He was able to get in there and really crump all over a lot of my valuable units, my sharpshooters, but I had to make sure that if he did come in, he was going to get punished for it. That was kind of the entire principle, and we were able to trade relatively efficiently in terms of cost, and from there, the Helped Abomination was able to out-endure the Scorpions, and of course, the halberds and Stormvermin did a really good job. I mean, they didn't get a lot of kills, 18 and 15, but I mean, that was against horsemen, which isn't bad, but they held, which is the more important thing, and Skrolk is so good in that Death Star style of play. And, you know, pre-patch or pre-Prophet in the Warlock, he kind of struggled a little bit here because all of his reinforcing elements would run. But now you can rely on those halberds. They'll hold, they'll give you Guardian, and they're also going to be very good against the things that are going to be attacking Skrolk, which makes him very, very good for sure. But yeah, this build's quite nasty. I think it's really good. My opponent played well, and after the game we discussed, like, I think cutting the Lich Priest with Light, and for example, if you had gotten like Doom and Darkness, I think that would have been really good. It would have broken the Storm Vermin very quickly, plus you could also break the Helped Abomination, perhaps with an Overcast and a big Alpha Strike, at which point he could chase it off the battlefield, which I think is something that really needs to happen in this situation. But yeah, I think Lore of Death would probably just be better. Plus, if you go with like Spirit Leech, Doom and Darkness, and like Fated Buna, for example, you could just use it like Buna on the Council Guard and then Doom and Darkness for the rest of the game. And I think you're going to get some pretty good value. But yeah, it was a good build. It was really scary for sure. It's incredibly tough to deal with. But I think if you plan and, you know, play this defensive style of play, it can be quite good. And now, just for the sake of optimizing this build, I think it's pretty good as is. A couple things I might change. I would probably cut one Warplock Jezzail. I just think you don't need it, 2 of them, because it just gives your opponents more juicy targets. And if they're going to be playing the Zerging style anyways, it's going to be tough. So I think you cut one Jezzail and simply replace it with like a Rat Ogre and another Skaven Slave, and you're going to be in good shape there. Because yeah, having the more mass is just more mass, more punch is going to be super valuable. But So if Tomb Kings were to play differently, for example, and go with like, let's say, I mean, you're pretty well prepared with constructs with this build. So if you're facing off against scorpions and any sort of other construct, you shop play, you have rat ogres, you have hell pits, you have halberds, you have guns, you're going to be good. One thing that might be a little bit tricky is if the Tomb Kings went super wide with like Tomb Guard, and then they came in with like a bunch of skeleton archers and then just like a little bit of a, you know, heavy support from there. But even still, I think Storm Vermin plus Skrulk with the breaths, and it would be a little bit tricky, but I think it's a relatively well-rounded Skaven build against Tomb King. So give it a try, guys, with your friends. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Well played to my opponent here. He did a really, really good job, and it was an awesome game, and we had some fun playing some games over in the XMT Discord. A good time as always from he's going as a Texas Sound right now, but yeah, it was super fun. So well played. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.